Welcome to the Stairway to Heaven. We're coming to you bringing insights into the ever-changing high-frequency currents now bathing the planet and their effect on us all. The source of vital information for the evolving human being. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. A matter of life and death. Many things are simply part of life. Everything, including plants, animals, and humans, are subject to natural laws. Among them are birth and death. Whether it's the birth of a star or one going nova, all things in this reality go through some form of beginning and demise. As humans, we tend to celebrate birth and avoid death at all costs. For some, the thought of death is shoved under the rug, after which they go on about life as it will never end. Others seem obsessed by death, preparing for it to nauseam, writing and rewriting their wills as if doing so gives them some kind of power over it. Birth and death are both a process of leaving one form and entering a new one, and they have much in common. For instance, a mother and child labor together for 7 to 12 hours, sometimes more, before the child enters the world. To try to rush the process and interfere with drugs or surgery always carries a cost. Drugs can greatly prolong labor, while C-sections result in babies with less resilience. Every part of the birth process has a vital, if hidden, components necessary for the well-being of both mother and child. Death is also a process. Anyone exposed to multiple deaths, such as hospice workers, starts to recognize very distinct steps within the event. Again, comfort care and the use of drugs can slow the process, making the individual less present and able to cooperate with it. Now, I'm not saying that using drugs or surgery in either case is the wrong choice, but simply pointing out the cost of doing so. Everyone is familiar with how one's birth date, time, and place dictate our astrological sign and have influences that follow us throughout our life. What many may not know is that our astrological chart also carries various windows where an exit is most likely. This is not to say we're guaranteed to leave at one of those points, nor does it indicate we can't leave at a time outside of one. It's simply a window of opportunity, if you will, whereby an exit is supported more than other times. So what does dictate our time and circumstance of crossing? We do. As in so many things, whether conscious or unconscious, our intent plays a large role in setting up our exit point and the situations surrounding it. Now that we're constantly being bathed in higher ambient frequency, our intent carries much more influence. It's becoming even more important to be mindful of what we're intending. Unconscious fears have a strong chance of creating the very thing we fear. If we want to be sure we're not unconsciously setting up our demise at an undesirable time and set of circumstances, it's advisable to bring our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings about death into our conscious mind. In my mother's family, Alzheimer's was a huge issue. Her mother and 2 of her brothers succumbed to it. Well, I remember my grandmother's aluminum cookware. Every pot and pan she owned was made from the toxic alloy. Now, whether the high incidence of Alzheimer in her family came from aluminum in the brain or genetic factors or both is anyone's guess. But my mother clearly stated that was not the way she wanted to go. She would often say, "I want my looks and all my marbles intact until I draw my last." I never once heard her mention longevity or how she wanted to go when stating her intent. As a result, she ended up dying in her early 70s. Her crossing was a year-long, terrifying experience of increasing suffocation due to inflammatory lung disease. But, as per her intent, she was beautiful and sharp as a tack until her dying day. Sometimes we may be setting ourselves up for an untimely death without even addressing death in our intent. I may simply be intending to be a famous artist as soon as possible. Unfortunately, many artists do not gain notoriety until after their deaths. Spirit must work within the factors present. It may be that my particular form of art is not appreciated by the masses at the time. My death may draw attention to my art long before it will be noticed otherwise. Spirit is nothing if not expedient. Unless I've indicated longevity in my bottom line while setting my intent to become a famous artist right now yesterday, the path of least resistance to my goal may very well be my death. I always remind my students to not leave value judgment up to Spirit. That's what the bottom line is for, giving guidelines as to how we wished our intent to be met. Unlike humans, the universe is not adverse to death. Unless you state otherwise, death will be considered among the acceptable options to reach your stated goal. It's always wise to be careful what you ask for. For more on intent and bottom line, visit StairwayToHeavenMedia.com and see Stairway to Heaven episode number 30, The Hidden Power That Drives Our Lives, Intention and Bottom Line. Belief also plays an important role. If we're unfortunate enough to have an astrologer predict our time of death, something a good practitioner knows it's both impossible and unethical to do, we may very well believe them and create it through our belief. If we believe we'll only live as long as our parents, we're likely to create that as well. In fact, the chances are doubly high as there are also genetic factors playing in. When and why did we become so averse to the transition back into spiritual form? In reports from people having near-death experiences, returning to spirit is a beautiful event. The other side is so appealing they often resist coming back to their bodies when informed is not yet their time. After having near-death experiences, 2 of them, by the way, myself, I've totally lost my fear of death. I may not be excited about the process of my body failing, and I'm very happy to live as fully as I can while I'm here, but I also look forward to rejoining the unified field and all of my relations therein. In short, give me healthy, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, dead. It's not surprising that we don't know much about death. We really don't have even a partial concept of life. We often think we are these bodies that we live in. We view them as our bodies and put much stock in how they look. Many view themselves only as good as their appearance. Yet, merely 10% of our physical body is human. The rest is a community of organisms living in symbiosis. So it isn't your body so much as it is a communal body. I'll bet you didn't know you were living in a commune. These avatars, comprised of a community of living organisms, are simply our anchor point to this reality for a time. It's enough to make you wonder how many other realities we may have avatars in at this very moment. When our spirit leaves the body, the rest of the community comprising it doesn't leave right away. Some of them even stick around to decompose what remains. In many traditions, such as the Tibetans, it's customary to sit with the dead for a prescribed time before preparing them for burial or cremation. After all, the entire community of beings in our physical makeup were active participants in our lives and probably in our relationships. It's even questionable how much of our consciousness belongs solely to us. When a person has parasites or serious overgrowth of candida, the little boogers message our brain, making us crave the things they thrive on, such as sugar. Therefore, identifying with the physical body or even with our thoughts is inaccurate and very limiting. When we start to realize we're not our bodies, we can also become less attached to and demanding of them. Shifting how we relate to our bodies can remove a great deal of pressure, allowing them to function unencumbered by our demands and negative thoughts and judgments. Additionally, if we do not view our consciousness and our bodies as one and the same, it'll greatly reduce our fear of eventually having to leave them. Another benefit of recognizing the community comprising our bodies comes from loving and appreciating them and their service to the whole. Not only every critter, but every organ has its own expression. When we honor and give gratitude for them, like all things, they function and thrive much better than if we do not. To honor the community of our bodies is to grant each part what it needs to survive. This is diametrically opposed to the way we now live. Instead, we push and demand performance from our bodies. We starve them so they're fashionably slim, or eat what we want to taste, not what our body needs to survive, regardless of the cost to them. We would not treat beloved friends or partners this way. Most of us take better care of our cars, as we know if we don't, they'll break down and leave us high and dry alongside the road. Yet we think nothing of abusing the precious community that unselfishly gives us a house for our spirit during our time here. Life and death are always a question of balance, give and take. The abusive practice of taking from the body as if we're the only ones living in it, and not giving it what it needs to survive, results in severe imbalance. Death results when the imbalance reaches a point that sufficient frequency for life cannot be maintained, regardless of our intentions otherwise. Life and death can only be embraced in the moment. Being present with both is the key to grace. If we live our lives either in avoidance of death or as if we'll live forever, we're not present for either. Many people have been reported dreaming about or speaking of a very exciting upcoming trip just before they die. Consider, if you will, what it would be like if we view death as another grand adventure. This is not really far from the truth. How often do we leave one reality to be birthed into another? Be it birth or death, it's quite the event. Another common occurrence is for the dying to see their dead relations in the room. Often, sensitive people sitting with the one crossing can see them also. Many traditions believe the ancestors come to escort the dying across to the land of spirit. Having been called to help many people cross, I can tell you there's no more miserable transition than the one experienced by someone who does not believe that they will exist after death. Their very fear often prevents them from perceiving the ancestors coming to help find their way. The fear of ceasing to exist causes these individuals such great fear and anxiety, they fight the process tooth and nail and suffer greatly. Look at it this way. When deciding whether to believe in life after death, what have you got to lose in so doing? If you're wrong, you're gone and not around to care anyway. If you're right, you're prepared to embrace the next step of the adventure and transcend into glory, fully present with the experience. While all things in this reality are indeed subject to some form of beginning and demise, let us not forget the phoenix that lives life so passionately she bursts into flame, burning up and falling to earth, only to rise from her ashes again and again throughout eternity. Depending upon the circumstance of our intent, life may be short or life may be long, but only by correcting our relationship to death can we truly live. Thank you for joining me, Gwilda Wiyaka, on the Stairway to Heaven, where we provide updates on the energetic currents facilitating our evolution into conscious, powerful co-creators. As I'm sure you've noticed, not only do the Stairway to Heaven episodes stand alone, but they weave together to form a map to evolution and personal empowerment as we enter the new era. To revisit this or any of our past episodes, visit our archives at www.stairwaytoheavenmedia.com. If you'd like to find out more about me, my school, and the evolutionary tools we offer, visit www.findyourpathhome.com. Until next time, may you be blessed on your sacred path to wholeness. We are here. The time is now.